On June 19th of each year, African Americans and others celebrate the abolishment of slavery in Texas that occurred about 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. This is important to you because this is something that has been left out of the majority of history textbooks, even though it still impacts America today. Today we're going to learn about what Juneteenth is, how it developed in America, and how people celebrate it. So let's begin with describing what it is. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. You probably heard about the Emancipation Proclamation. Basically it said that all the slaves in the rebellious southern states were free from that point forward. But on June 19, 1865, the Emancipation Proclamation was announced and enforced in the state of Texas. On this day, General Granger of the Union Army traveled to Galveston, Texas, and he announced, "The people are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." According to J.L. Jeffries on April 1st, 2004 of the Negro Educational Review, there are a couple of theories attempting to explain why it took so long for this announcement to reach Texas. One of these theories is that the messenger that was sent to deliver the news was killed on his way to Texas. Another one was that there weren't enough Union troops in Texas to actually enforce it. The last theory is that the Union troops were sympathetic to plantation owners and they decided to let them keep their slaves for just one more cotton harvest. Now that we know about the history of Juneteenth, we can talk about how this celebration has developed through time. So at the beginning, when they first started celebrating, usually only African Americans celebrated, and white people actually tried to stop them from using public lands to celebrate this holiday. But eventually blacks started buying parks and other places where they could celebrate. During the early 1900s, Juneteenth wasn't celebrated as much because the lives of former slaves were not talked about in history classes. During the 1900s, it was more of a time focused on family, and they thought that it would be better if they didn't talk about this uncomfortable subject. That's why then and now they talk about the Emancipation Proclamation in history textbooks, but not Juneteenth. By now you've probably figured out that Juneteenth is a mixture of the words June and 19th. So today the celebration of Juneteenth has become more widely recognized. More people are aware and they want to celebrate this day of freedom. According to Christina Kay in 1996 of the Juneteenth Worldwide Celebration website, Al Edwards, a state legislator from Texas, played a major role in helping Juneteenth become a state holiday on January 1st, 1980. So now that we know about how Juneteenth developed, we can talk about how people celebrate it. So at Juneteenth festivals, there's usually special food and drinks like strawberry soda and barbecue. The barbecue pit is the center of focus at these celebrations. According to Henry Chase, in June of 1997 of American Visions, the annual Juneteenth Festival in Houston features blues bands and arts and crafts fairs. Usually the types of activities that happen at Juneteenth festivals are focused on self and cultural development. There's things like art, music, dancing, speakers, pageants, baseball, fishing, and rodeos. An example of something that you might see at a Juneteenth festival is majorette dancing. I'm on a majorette dance team at NSU, which is the college that I attend, and I wanted to show you guys a couple of dances that you might see at a Juneteenth festival. So one of our dances that we would do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then another example would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just to give you an idea. Okay, so with all that we've learned about Juneteenth, let's wrap things up. Again, on June 19th of each year, African Americans and others celebrate and remember the abolishment of slavery that occurred in Texas about 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was effective. Today we've learned about what Juneteenth is, how it developed in America, and how people celebrate it. The most important reason that we want to celebrate Juneteenth is because not all Americans became free when we declared our independence from England. And not all Americans became free when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Bondage lasted an extra 2 years, 6 months, and 19 days for the slaves in Texas. And a celebration of the freedom of these slaves is a celebration of the freedom of all Americans.